Okay. Welcome, thank you for coming to Millennials on Millennials. And guess which one of us up here is not a millennial?
It's Jazz.
Jazz? Jazz is not. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do and who Omelet is. We're all part of the Omelet team. Omelet is a marketing, branding, entertainment agency. About 100 people in Los Angeles with an office in Seattle. We do everything from traditional advertising, for example, a lot of the Microsoft work you see on television is Omelets right now. We do experiential marketing. For example, we launched Game of Thrones last season for HBO. We do pure long-form entertainment. We have a full-length documentary film that's going to be released in another 2 or 3 months. We are developing our own line of seed butters, peanut butter, almond butter, etc. So we are developing our own products because we know how to understand audiences and we know how to construct a marketing plan and a branding program in order to target those audiences. So Omelet, our mantra is we're audience first. That is the one thing that we think distinguishes us. We're very rigorous in the left brain. Which brain is analytical, left or right? Clearly I have none. We are a very unique mixture of left and right brain. Whichever one is creative and whichever one is analytical, we got them both. I'm going to introduce the panelists, and obviously we want to hear from our millennials. About 85-ish% of Omelet's 100 people are millennials. We do know that market, and we've also done an in-depth piece of research that we invite you to take with you. And if you want it mailed electronically, just leave us your business card and we'll be happy to send it to you. So we have some good insights on how to market to millennials and how to construct businesses and target around you. So my name is Don KURZ. I'm the company's CEO. To my left is Ceglarski, our Director of Business Development. Just to give you a flavor of the eclectic mix of backgrounds, Sarah was with William Morris Endeavor for 6 years before she joined Omelet as a literary agent and then as an overall communications star. Morgan Aceino is our senior brand strategist. She heads our brand strategy team. She came over from another marketing agency called Crispin Porter before we stole her away. She's done a remarkable job heading our brand strategy group. Jazz Gill is also a brand strategist working in partnership with Morgan. Jazz came to us pretty close to after graduating from the Brand Center at VMU, where Morgan also graduated. And Jazz has done some remarkable work for our clients. Let me also say our clients include, as I mentioned, Microsoft, HBO, AT&T, Whole Foods, Coca-Cola, Moet, Chandon, Veuve Clicquot. My French good?
That's pretty good.
And again, of course, our own kind of organic endeavors for our movie and for we have 2 series that are being pitched that are coming out right now. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. Adam Sager is one of our senior creatives, is our senior copywriter. And Adam has got an amazing background, including he's an expert baker.
I worked at a bakery. I cut cake and I served it to people. So obviously I'm very talented.
Which uniquely qualifies him.
I can divide circles into 8s like nobody you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. We want this to be very interactive and fun. And Sarah?
So this is less of a panel construct. We want it to be more of a conversation. It's going to be really informal. We're used to having slides up here, so we just want to talk with you guys. And as Don said, our philosophy is audience first. So in that spirit, we want to get to know you guys a little bit so we can tailor our conversation a little bit better. So how many of you are in marketing? A couple. Media? Media tech? How many of you are starting a company or have started a company? Okay. And how many of you employ millennials? How many of you are parents to millennials? And how many of you do not know what a millennial is? All right.
Did you raise your hand for everything?
No, I didn't.
It's one of those words like hipster. Like,
Yeah.
It's true. That's part of why we're talking. All right, so first, for the benefit of this young man in the back, we're going to tell you what a millennial is and the best myths about them. So, okay, whatever. Just to be clear, these two are the smart ones on stage, and they're going to make all of us so we'll start with actually talking to you guys about why we're talking about millennials. And it's because they have been deemed a really, really skeptical group. That was actually in the title of this chat, Connecting with Generation of Skeptics. And the reason that we're having this conversation with you today is because millennials, like you said, it's like hipsters. You hear it all the time, millennial marketing. It's such a buzzword. It's full of jargon. You can pretty much slap it on anything and people are like, yeah, millennials. And you're usually hearing that from like a Gen Xer or a boomer or someone who's not a millennial. And we feel like this is a really good opportunity to just have a conversation with millennials about millennials, because it's probably the most honest thing you'll ever hear from a group of marketers about this elusive and super lucrative group. So that's why we want it to be a conversation, not a lecture. But Jazz can tell you a little bit more about the specifics of millennials. And if you guys have questions along the way, please holler. We would much rather address those along the way instead of just tell you things. It's kind of boring. So, all right. So millennials, there are 80 million millennials in this country. They're between the ages of 18 and 34. So it's quite a wide range. And they have the largest share of voice. Yes, you're a millennial. Yeah.
Self-awareness. Self-awareness.
We have the largest share of voice and are extremely influential. 74% of us can influence the purchasing decisions of other generations. So that's to our parents, to our grandparents, to siblings. We're very influential in purchasing considerations. And we are also the most diverse generation to date in the United States. 40% of us are non-white. So we've been widely studied. There's so many stereotypes out there about millennials. What have you guys heard about millennials? Do you have any?
They don't like Facebook.
They don't like Facebook. Okay. What else? What else?
They love selfies.
Everyone loves selfies. Yeah, let's be honest. Everybody likes selfies. What else? There's a lot of things that people like to say about millennials, but there's not a whole lot out there to back it up.
They're
Come on.
cause-centric.
They're what?
Cause-centric.
Great. What else?
Narcissistic?
Yes.
They care about community, giving back.
Uh-huh.
Socially conscious.
Yep.
Don't pay much attention to hierarchy.
Amen.
Much disagree with people not in the millennial group, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive in and tell you why we're so skeptical. And yeah, sure. So we are a very skeptical generation, but a large part of that is due to the way that we were raised and the big cultural defining moments of our lifestyles when we were growing up. So for me, I remember Columbine, I remember September 11th and where I was, and it was just a very, there's a bleak outlook when we were growing up and everything was so pessimistic. And there's a lot of political scandals, but also, we grew up with a lot of really wholesome icons. Britney Spears was just this teen, whenever we were growing up, and
Then she shaved her head and had her baby.
and Macaulay Culkin, he was, and now what's the name of his band? It's something ridiculous.
The name of his band is I Have a Problem. I don't know what the name of his band is.
It's so terrible.
You've seen a picture of him, it's
It's crazy.
But-
So Lindsay Lohan, Amanda Bynes. Yeah.
So we've watched all our role models, all these people we looked up to, and I guess every generation's role models sort of do this, but we got to watch it in a much more public way because it was all over the internet all the time. We just watched everybody just crumble into these very depressing people whose lives have fallen apart.
Yes. And to add to that, there's economic recession. So even if you went to school, you took AP classes, you went to college, you graduated, went to grad school, there was still no guarantee, and actually was less than likely that you're going to get a job afterwards. So what was the point? It was almost like there's nothing to look forward to. And we also grew up in the age of marketing. I mean, since we were born, we've been marketed to. We've been around brands and branding and constant influx of messages. We see about 5,000 ads per day, and that's on the lower scale of this. So we've seen everything, we've done everything, we've been sold everything, so we believe almost nothing. We're not, we will believe you, but it takes a whole lot more effort, and that's what we're here to talk about today. How you can actually break through that skepticism and make a real connection with this group. Because they have over $1 trillion of spending power now.
1.3 trillion.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue into brand me.
Oh yeah, brand me. So have you guys ever heard about this new trend of brand me? It's very, very driven by the millennial audience.
So since we've been marketed to since we were kids, we're very aware of like what brands are and what they do, what it means to have your own brand. And in the age of social media, where you're constantly putting out things that you are into, things that you support, and you want to affiliate yourselves with, we're constantly cultivating our own walking, talking brand. So it's actually also been called like your social DNA, because it manifests itself very well online. There's actually this thing called Zebly, and you can connect it to your Facebook, and it'll scan everything that you've ever put online and actually give you an assessment of who you are as a person, your character, what your habits are, what your favorite things are, your favorite people, your favorite icons, all of those things, and it is spot on. I was incredibly skeptical that it would actually peg me, and it did it, all because I've been cultivating my personal brand DNA without even like knowing about it. So because of that, the skepticism that surrounds a lot of these things is not us all just being, like naysayers. It's we're very careful like what we affiliate ourselves with, because we see every single investment of our time or affiliation as not a passive engagement, but like an active affiliation and a reflection of who we are as people. So that's why whenever you're a brand, a market, or a company, it's incredibly important for you to make sure that what you stand for is aligned with the millennial audience, if that's your target.
So are you saying that this group is actually, they're more refined and concise about who they choose, as opposed to, like, what I seem to see is that they, because it's so easy to attach your name to a certain cause or brand, it's like, oh yeah, I'm into that, I'm behind that, cool, me too. It seems to me that they're grabbing everything, as opposed to being this super careful, I'm gonna put all my time behind cause X.
Well, it's not really about your time investment. It's about like the badge that you get from even saying like a like on Facebook, like I like Target. So that actually says something about me. It's not like a passive thing. So the moment that you put your like, or that you attend an event, or you share a photo, or use a hashtag, or whatever it is, it says something about you as a person. So while I might have like 400 of those, every single one of those comes together to form my brand me. So it's not about like the depth of what you're into, it's more about the breadth and the full picture that paints.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Cool. So we've kind of split this into 3 different areas, starting with marketing, media, and entertainment. And please feel free to hop in. But Jazz, do you want to kick us off on marketing?
Sure. So one of the big trends we're seeing right now is this thing we're calling access trumps ownership. So millennials, we're very experience driven, and we love collecting experiences that we can brag about, whether it's with our friends or on social media, and being first to experience something and then tell your social circles about it is even more key. So in order to gain more experiences, we're starting to sacrifice ownership, especially permanent ownership, of material things or possessions in order to gain more of these experiences. And that's this trend that we're calling access trumps ownership. And there's a few brands that are doing this really well. When's the last time anyone bought a piece of music in here?
Yesterday?
Yesterday? What was iTunes?
No, actually a company called Louder.
Louder, okay. Go ahead.
Well, I feel like now we have to, how many of you use Spotify?
Yeah.
How many of you use Spotify more than you use iTunes? And how many of you are like, why would I spend $1 on a song when I could just, yeah.
Yeah. So Spotify is one of the largest brands out there, one of the most popular ones, one that's doing it really well. Netflix is also one of the first ones out there. There's a brand called Le Tote. I am a huge fan of it. It's basically like a subscription service for clothing. Each month they'll send me a box of clothing, and I wear whatever I want, and then I send it back. As soon as they receive it, they'll send me more. And it's just a great way. It's also, if you like clothing, you can keep it. If you don't, you return it. It's a great way to experience things without having to necessarily own them. Airbnb.
Yeah, I traveled all through Berlin and Prague just using Airbnb. I don't have any vacation homes. I don't rent any vacation homes, and all my friends are traveling this way.
It's also a really great way to sort of do the try before you buy thing. I know that we've all seen there's a massive rise in popularity of subscription services like Birchbox, Ipsy, Blue Apron, everything that it's a curated experience where you don't have to go out and maybe buy like a whole bottle of like a super high-end conditioner. They'll send you a small one and you can try it, so you don't have to like make all the investment right up front. So it's also playing off of the idea that millennials don't want to have to like regret spending their money on something that they don't actually like.
Right. What does this mean for us? This means that millennials are changing the way that brands and marketers are structuring their business models. Like, owning something permanently isn't going to work in the near future. I mean, we might not even own our own cars in 10 years. That might be something completely obsolete. So it's something to think about. It's important to offer things or services that lend itself to this trend, and something that we're keeping tabs on in the coming years. Also different levels, because I know we all said that we use Spotify, but like recognizing that there's Spotify free, which is great, and then there's Spotify premium, which is amazing. Because then you can get your music anywhere. You can download it, you can share it. Like it's a really great service. So really applying that to a bunch of different services, and just recognizing that you need to incorporate levels of engagement, levels of commitment into whatever thing that you're offering. That's a way to really get in with the millennial audience, because they like to be able to try it out before they fully buy in, because they don't want to have to regret it.
So basically you're saying that millennials appreciate a freemium kind of service.
Well, I mean, I think that they do, but I think that it's just having a very clear why to buy for them. Like it's not something that they will just be like, yeah, here's my money, or here's even just my time if it's free. They want to know exactly what they're getting and why it's better than other things. Because like I was an avid Pandora user, and then Jazz told me that I was being an idiot and I needed to get on Spotify. She's like a year younger than I am, so she's a little bit cooler. But she told me I was being an idiot and I needed to get on Spotify because it had all of these other features. I could pick anything that I wanted at any time. And then Adam was like, oh, you need to pay the extra $10 a month, because then you can listen to it in your car and you can save all your stuff offline when you go on trips or whatever. And so it's very driven by word of mouth, but the word of mouth is still totally focused on the unique, reason to believe in that product. So making sure that that's very clear and ownable by your product is the way that you get in and stay on board with the millennial audience.
But then just before, and the other thought is just, we like our options. You know what I mean? Like we don't want like one movie, we want all the movies. Like give us all movies, and like we don't want a couple of songs. Like just give us every song ever, please. Like that's like that's what we want. That's way better. So if you can do that, you're gonna beat everything. Yeah, you're up.
So on that comment as well as yours, you have millennials who want everything. They want it now, it's on demand, but at the same time, they're very fickle too. Like you said, they move from iTunes to Pandora to Spotify, and at each stage, they're big evangelists, ambassadors of the product. How do you maintain that community to actually stay with the brand, because you're spending so much time to attract them?
It's a great question.
And that's actually a perfect segue into surprise and delight, which you guys want to talk about that?
Sure. Okay. Well, it's about having, like what I was saying before, with that unique selling prop, and really putting out there in the way that is perfect for your audience. Because like Jazz loves music, and Spotify was perfect for her because she doesn't have to pay for every single song. And I was really averse to even trying it until Jazz told me oh, well, you can try it for free and it's way, way, way better. So we were Jazz was in way before I was, so I would say that she's probably a really early adopter, / brand advocate, and because she was on board, then I was. But then it took another person telling me that I needed to pay even more money to get onto the higher bandwagon. But the whole thing that really kept me on board was the surprises along the way of the experience. I didn't think it would be as good as they were saying. And if you go back to Latote, the surprise to delight part of that is really interesting, because you have someone paying special attention to your specific likes and desires out of your clothing. You don't even really have to think about it. You're gonna tell them about your fun surprise to delight?
Sure. So Latote, I told you about, I'm a huge advocate of them, and I get these boxes at work, and people just see me opening up the clothes, and they get really excited. So I got at least 7 people organically to sign up and use my referral code, and I got this huge package, and it had this really beautiful necklace. And they sent me a note card and just said, thanks for talking about us, and thanks for spreading the word. Really appreciate your support. And it was just a really nice, I didn't expect it, out of the ordinary gift on a Wednesday, middle of the week, and it just made me really happy. And you brought up a really good point. How do we, as an agency, brands come to us a lot and they say, how can we build a tribe of followers, and how can we get people to come and really support us? And you can't just decide to do it and do it. It happens really organically, and it comes as a result of a two-way, authentic conversation that you have with your consumers. And surprising and delighting, we've seen it all, as Morgan said before. We see so many ads, we've seen every tactic out there. So going out of your way to, enable us to have successes of our own. So Spotify, one of the reasons I really liked it is I could make playlists and then I could send them to my friends. And I could also pick certain songs and send those to people. So it kind of helped me curate collections that I liked and then send them out to people. And it's kind of like a form of social currency. If I'm sending things I like to other people, getting them on board, it just makes me, it was just a really good feeling.
Well, what about, to the gentleman's question, loyalty? Is this a group that, which marketers ultimately, the holy grail is loyalty. So
Yes.
how would you address how loyal?
Well, I can tell you one thing that you should never do. I just remembered it outside, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to tell them that story because it infuriates me every time. I know you've all probably heard of Clout, like it's the tracker of your social currency online, and they often partner with brands to give out Clout perks. And I fancy myself like sort of a social influencer, but not really. I'm not that cool, but cool enough to get perks sometimes. And I was issued a perk from this vodka brand called Vive, and it's like a healthy vodka brand, and they sent me a note. It says nothing about me, you guys, okay? But they sent me a note, and they were like, hey, we would love for you to invite your friends over. We're gonna send you some product. Please let us know how it goes. We can't wait to hear. We think you'd really love this. And I was like, yeah, all right, here's my address. Can't wait to get it. Pumped. So like 2 weeks later or something, I got my box in the mail. Really stoked about it. I like called Jazz over and I was like, hey, let's look at this. Pumped. Opened it up. It is 2 mason jars that are empty with just the Vive logo on it. I've never been more furious at a brand in my whole life because I was really expecting to get their product, and instead I got this like branded piece of nothing that I just like gave to a friend who does like jams at home or whatever. Millennials, sorry. But yeah, I was really upset with them, like so upset that I like took a picture of it because they had the audacity to follow up and ask me how much I enjoyed my Clout perk, and I was like, not at all. What do I do with air in a jar? So I took a picture of it and I was like, I really think you guys should rethink your marketing strategy and how you use Clout because this perk just infuriated me, and every time I see it in the store now, it just pisses me off. So whenever you're trying to engage influencers, you have to make sure that you're actually like giving them something of value, something that they'll want to spread to their social circles, and something that is, as additive to their lives, not something that you think that they should have. Like it's something they should want and want to share. Because if you're just giving them crap, then you're just wasting everyone's time and your money. Sorry, good question.
I mean, from your example, you went to Jazz to find out who has the better, what's the better music platform. And for me, I have a similar experience where I have certain friends within my network that I would call more professional, more experienced within certain areas for different media platforms or products or so on and so forth. How, as a advertising agency, or how do you guys quantify that relationship of who's the real influencer out of the group and what is their level of connectivity to their friends to influence them to get that product, to use that product? How do you do that? Especially too with the millennials.
Well, I guess one of the ways you can do that is social listening tools. So you can gauge, a person, how many followers they have, how many circles they're connected to, who they're talking about brands or not. A lot of it, it's pretty much, I think it's organic. It's a lot of spying. Yeah. Like that's what we do for a living. So we do a lot of like web strategy. No, because people ask me what I do and I'm like, I'm basically a consumer spy. Like I listen to people, talk to people. We do a lot of man on the street things, like trying to figure out like who people talk to about like different things, where they get their information. Because like one of the biggest things that we have to find out as marketers is how you seed things. Because everyone wants to create something that's viral. Everyone wants to make a tribe. Like everyone asks those things and like sets forth those objectives, and they're really hard to accomplish because it's like there's no scientific approach to it. Like you have your listening tools and you can look for patterns for sure, but you kind of just have to get in the trenches and listen, like really listen.
And you can capture, and we do this through partnerships, you can capture big data of Twitter and all the social media converging and look for patterns and crunch the numbers and draw some conclusions that informs the next question, and you start to develop a profile and archetypes of people.
And then when you develop your message, like, if they say we want to target trendsetters or we want to target, people who are going to pick this up first and share it with people, the words you use to talk about that and the images you use when you're actually making whatever creative you're going to make, you know, when you're telling someone to try something for the first time, I mean, try it is different than this is here. You know, like be a leader is different than, you know, this exists, get on it whenever you want to get on it. You can target the message differently depending on how you talk about something. So once you determine who you're talking to, use different language to target different kinds of people.
What happens if, as an individual, I'm only in it for the one experience? Like, to give you a real life example, I like McDonald's ad on Facebook. Now I get spammed with everything McDonald's. All I cared about was McRib coming back that one time.
Can I just tell you something? That's all anybody cares about. All right. Well, when that thing comes back, shut it down.
Well, the thing is now I'm getting spammed by McDonald's, and so that's the I guess my second question is, how do you identify who's the true buyer? Because I think one of the statistics I heard was 20% of your actual customers are your true 100% buyers, the people that will be coming to you day in and day out, regardless of what product you sell or give to them. How do you identify even those even further within the influencers, especially the millennials?
They'll talk back to you. You know, if they're invested in your brand, they care a little bit about it because you liking them and participating with them is a part of their brand B and a reflection of their identity. So they want to be able to talk to you and be like, hey, I like this, or like, don't spam me. And honestly, McDonald's, that wasn't a great strategy on their part, and just sending everyone spam, but a lot of media dollars, so they can just do it. But if you have an influencer and they are engaged with your brand, they will talk back to you, and then it's up to you to listen in, listen up, and respond, cater your services to their preferences.
And that's part of what we do is, we create content that people actually want to engage with specifically who we're targeting. So it's not just, when you think of advertisement, you think of something that's getting in your way of an experience. So what we strive to do is dress it up so it doesn't look like advertising, and people actually want to engage and like it, and then go one step further and share it with their friends. So that's kind of like the ultimate end goal for us. But we realize it's not possible with every level of consumer.
Do you guys think that that millennials will at some point maybe change their behaviors slightly as far as their loyalty and that kind of thing, or is it fixed in the psyche right now and that's how they'll be for the rest of their lives, or will there be a point when they change?
I don't know if we can definitively say that, but I mean, just the way this group has, moved so far, we're still developing. I mean, half of us are still in the very younger segment. Half of us are a bit older. We're having families and whatnot. We're a little bit more already within our purchase cycle and have our habits defined. Some of us are still really growing up. So I have a feeling that it's going to change a lot. This is a group that will continue to be studied. So I wouldn't look for a trend that you can marry right now that'll be true forever. I think they're worth monitoring for quite a bit longer.
And I think, remember, there's 80 million out of 320 or 330 million people in the U.S. Some of our work, which everybody here was very involved in, for Moet, Champagne, and Depot, involved traditional target of champagne drinkers are 40 plus people. One of the reasons for that brand is they're expensive, $40, $50+ a bottle, and just associated with the country club type set. And they realize their audience is getting older, they need to come down and get some real relationship building and loyalty. And they do some wonderful work as to how, even though this is a budget constrained group, many of them have debt, consumer, student debt, etc., yet they found really good vehicles and insights as to how to capture the millennials for a very high-priced brand, and then develop that relationship and the loyalty that will hopefully, follow them through. I don't know if you want to talk a bit about one or two of these.
I was going to say, part of that is, you think of champagne as you have that once a year. Statistically, what is it, one glass a year, or
Yeah,
1.5 glasses?
we have
a year?
about 200. We have about 200 servings of alcohol per year, and only 1 to 2 of those is champagne.
So really, the goal for us was, how do we come up with communication that get one more glass, which would essentially double the market.
Mm-hmm. One more glass.
One more glass. Yeah. So.
And I led by example.
By the way, that was not a tagline, by the way.
I want one more glass. One more glass.
Question mark?
But part of that is just, millennials like to celebrate everything. It's not just about celebrating your engagement or your wedding or your new job. It's I finished my term paper and it's 0 a.m. and we're all in the library high-fiving, or I'm running into the ocean going skinny dipping at 5 in the morning with all my friends. It's there's little moments to celebrate, and part of our strategy was, okay, we got to bring this down to a millennials understand, which is like, we should be allowed and encouraged to celebrate these everyday moments
Don't
because
wait for
there's
the
a whole
wedding.
hell of a lot more of them than New Year's, which is just one time a year. So.
Right. So the big charge, going back to your question, was like, are they going to change? And we think that they will, but there's a really big opportunity for brands and marketers to connect with them right now, while some of them are forming some of their like lifelong purchasing habits. And for Moet, that's a big deal because they have an expensive drink, and it's something that you know from the time that you're little until the time that you die. Like champagne is a part of your cultural nomenclature. And one of the things that we were charged with, or that we charged ourselves with, was like figuring out how we connect with this audience right now, so that we become their drink of choice whenever they're celebrating, whatever that type of celebration might be. And the insight that we came to is that millennials don't define success in the traditional fashion. They don't say like, oh, success is getting a promotion, or success is having my first baby, or buying my first house. It's like, I didn't murder anyone at work on Tuesday, thank God. Like it's like the small things, like all along the way, and it's all about celebrating the journey, not just the destination. And that insight led us to a bunch of really interesting work that like ultimately landed the business, which is really exciting. But the whole point was to get in with them right now, whenever they're figuring out like what is their champagne of choice. Because they could pick, not a champagne, they could pick a Prosecco, it still bubbles. But like, how do we make it Moet? And that was the whole thing.
I found, and I might be totally wrong, I'm curious
You're
to
a
hear
millennial, remember.
I am.
Also
So-
parent to a millennial.
No, not a parent. No.
That's
That's the one where I remember not raising my hand. Unless I'm an unknowing parent, which I hope not. Okay, so my question is, do you find, in your experience, that millennials seem to care more about customer service than older generations? Because I found that companies started by millennials, right? It's like the customer is the most important thing, and the idea that I have to be on hold with Bank of America for 20 minutes is like, I can't believe there's a company that's gonna put me on hold, I'm so mad. Is that me, or is that millennials in general? You have to give them the best customer service. They're the most important thing. Is that the case?
That's the case, for sure. But what's funny is my grandmother is so furious about customer service everywhere. Like, she's furious. Nobody has good enough customer service, but she just keeps going back. She'll just keep going to the same place and complaining about it until she's dead. That's what my name is. I'm gonna hear about Kelleher Pond Oil Company for the rest of our life, I guess. But we'll just go somewhere else. Like, millennials will just go do something else, because we don't need to put up with your shit if it's not good enough.
Right.
So we can just bounce on from iTunes to Spotify. If your thing's not good enough, we'll just go to the next thing, because someone's going to beat you and hear us complaining on Twitter and come up with a new idea.
So you're
But
saying
Nana's going to keep complaining.
it's not that we care more about it then, it's that everybody cares about good customer service. We just will go somewhere else.
Everyone cares about it, but we also think we're super special, so we care more.
And it also goes back to that, we want our marketing to be a two-way conversation. We want to feel like we're influencing the marketing as much as it's influencing us. And part of that is, when I complain about something, Time Warner Cable on Facebook, they're gonna write back to me in my post and say, so sorry about that, Sarah. We're gonna get over to your house tomorrow and fix it. So it's like you feel like you're being heard, which is a big part of it. You don't feel like you're being heard when you're on hold for 20 minutes and you have to put off all this other stuff you need to do.
And a lot of that has to do with this trend of like the on-demand lifestyle. Like we expect everything right now, when we want it, where we want it, like exactly how we want it. And a lot of marketers and brands are recognizing that, and they're getting on board with that. Like Warby Parker, amazing. Like they're a really amazing millennial brand. Like I had like a whole snafu with my eyes. Whole other story, we can talk about it after. But I had to get glasses, and I put like this stupid post about like the different ones that I was trying on. They responded to me and gave me, like, this guy made a video post at Warby Parker's headquarters and told me like, we love those on you, you should get those. And I was like, well, yes I will, thank you. Like, that's crazy, that's insane. But the fact that like this company took the moment to address my question, it wasn't even a question, I was just like, I'm considering buying your product. And they were like, yeah, it looks great on you. I was like, okay. And like, that is not just like a focus group of one. Like all of my friends are like that, like the millennials that we study are like that. It's just showing that you care enough and that you're paying attention. Like that goes worlds beyond just like, sending you like a we're sorry card.
And it's actually not that hard for our company to do, so
No.
you can kind of expect more of it. It's like, yeah, you made a video, but you're kind of like, yeah, but how hard was that? You turn on a camera and you post it. You know, like that took him 10 seconds.
Yeah,
So-
literally. I think it was like a 12-second video, and I was like, oh
So
no.
it goes a long way, but it's not that hard, so it's a really nice thing you can do to keep us interested.
Question?
This is a little bit of a tangent, but I'd love to hear from millennials. What are the similarities that you're seeing between the next generation, people that are a lot younger than you? I mean,
Gen Z.
the Gen Z, the 16-year-old behaves, at least I found, very differently than the 20-year-old even, and it seems like it's speeding up. So what's your take on that, and how can we use the principles that, you know, millennial marketing to apply or not apply to the next Gen Z?
Personally, I think they're worlds apart, different. They're going to be adopting completely different social platforms, social media platforms. In general, millennials and Gen Z both are getting very niche in their interests and what they're doing. So it's opposed to us, we grew up with Facebook and we're connected to everyone we know through Facebook. Now they'll be connected on smaller niche networks like Snapchat. I'm just sending videos back and forth. It's just images, and then if I want to do a video, I will go to Vine, and you know, they're going to have many different platforms, each with a specific cause, a specific purpose, which is something I think we're starting to see, and it's also prevalent among millennials. But I think Gen Z, the younger generation, is the one that's really driving that behavior.
Yeah, and just off of that, there's actually, I know, has everyone in here heard of FOMO? Like the fear of missing out? Gen Z is actually driving JOMO. It's the joy of missing out. It's this like stepping away from like what the NASAs are doing, what everyone's like getting. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is what we do.
How many minutes a day does he just sit there and look at you guys go this?
Oh, we can throw these all day. But yeah, the joy of missing out is really interesting because Gen Z, like whereas millennials are doing this thing, which actually this is a great segue into entertainment because there's this macro trend called inclusive exclusivity, and it's all about like having really exclusive experiences that are still inclusive of people who are like-minded with you. So a lot of times, like Jazz and I are really great friends, and she and I and like 2 other people will go do like a really cool experience that's away from what other people are doing. So we're having our own like JOMO moment and activating other people's FOMO because of it. I am so sorry. But it's all about creating and activating like these brag-worthy experiences, and I think that that's a big point of overlap for the millennial generation and Gen Z is like all about creating experiences that are brag-worthy and knowing like what they're looking for out of those experiences. That's something that we are seeing quite a bit in the market.
This like brag-worthy instant gratification. Did we as millennials, do we have this now because it was instilled in us as a child, like through Pogs and Pokemon and Barbies? I mean, the idea of getting everything all at once. Was it because we were marketed this at such a young age with these products that it has made us who we are today? Or is it something else?
I think it's 2 things. I think it's people. Well, our millennials overall, we have this whole thing about individuality. We love individuals and people who are like a little bit flawed and kind of crazy, like Lena Dunham. You know, like we love that. We value that more than other generations that were like, we want a pretty person who's perfect and does all this. Like we accept individuality more than anybody. And then that, coupled with our love for feeling special, makes us want to do unique, brag-worthy things. And sharing that with people and then activating their FOMO like a sociopath. We're like, oh, they feel terrible because I'm here.
Sorry. And just the fact that we're connected to these social platforms and have a way to get it out in the world. Like, I'm at this secret concert that no one else is at, and here's my Instagram picture of it, but you guys won't be able to find me because no one else knows about it. Like, that's a brag-worthy experience.
Right.
It goes back to brand me, which Morgan was talking about at the beginning, and it's all building this idea of like, who is Sarah on the internet, which is really creepy, actually.
Yeah, I can give you guys a super douchey example. It's this thing that Jazz and I are part of. We're massive foodies. And it's actually this like underground food lab thing. It's called Dinner Lab in LA. And you have to pay to be a member, first of all. So it's like an exclusive thing. And then they have secret pop-up dinners with up-and-coming chefs that they don't tell you about until the day before, and you have to like go to a secret location, which you still don't know what it is until you get there. and you like all you know is the food so that you don't die if you have an allergy. But like you get there, and we've been to a boxing gym. Oh yeah, it was a boxing gym. They had one on a helicopter pad like on top of the city. It's like this whole thing. So we take pictures and we're like, look how cool we are. This is our brand me. We say that. That's my caption. So brand me. But it's all about saying like, look at this secret thing that I'm doing because I wanna show that I am a part of these experiences that are really brag-worthy and sort of like demonstrating my social currency. We're such assholes.
I mean, and brands that can pull that off in a really authentic way win big. Not just with the people who were there, but with the people who found out about it too late or couldn't get in. It's like, I just want to be at the next one. So then like they'll get everyone on board with what they're doing. They'll be seen as kind of like doing really cool shit, which is sort of what it is.
Yeah, I think parenting has a lot to do with the way you guys have turned out. Because, you know, my parents were the
That's
ones
who we
that,
can blame.
you know, they were children of the Depression, and it was post-war, and it was work ethic and all this. And then we came along, and we're like, everyone's a winner. Everybody gets a trophy. And so, you know, you've just been marinated in this. You're wonderful, you're wonderful, you're wonderful. And so, to me, it's just a very logical, that might be the first factor that occurred.
That's very true.
Definitely.
Everyone got a trophy.
Place
So it's
in
all
the
our fault,
8-person
right?
race. Good for you.
No, but I mean, that's universal across this generation because, I mean, that's like a very normal observation. Every one of my friends' parents was always like, yeah, we just told them they were great the whole time. And like, their kid's awful, you know what I mean? Their kid loves everybody, but we love him, you know what I mean? Like, you should hit your kid or something eventually. Anyway.
But I do want to call out, like, that's a stereotype that people sort of put on us. I do think that that's a truth, but then we also get labeled as like slackers, and we don't really want to like work hard. We don't really have like a great work ethic. Like we have no hustle, and that's kind of the opposite. Like we want to believe that we're great, even if we aren't, but we're going to work really hard to try to get there. Like it's a weird paradox, but like I think it was something like 70% of millennials would say that their hustle is worth more than an MBA. Like we want to make our own careers. We want to like not climb the traditional corporate ladder. We want to try to make something out of ourselves, which is why we're in such a startup culture. Which is why everyone is like not just trying to make it to the next rung. Like they're taking it into their own hands. And part of that is due to our parents telling us that we could. Like we believe in ourselves because our parents did. And that kind of makes us brats, but it also makes us awesome.
Well, it also makes it really hard to hire though, because now I'm hiring millennials, and I just hired the most awesome employee I had ever hired, a woman, and I've been hiring people for 30 years now in the high-tech industry, and she loved her job. It's just she had an opportunity to go save people's lives in Ethiopia, and so after a year of finally getting them trained and doing more and more of her awesomeness, you know. Then on the other hand, as a parent of a millennial, if that were my child, my oldest is about her age, I would go, oh yeah, go, do it, you know? I mean, it's all about opportunity and experience. So it's a strange change in the world. It's gonna change the way jobs are done. It's gonna change the way people learn, lifetime learning. It's gonna change the fact that people are gonna have 7 or 8 careers throughout their lives. But it makes it hard to be an employer.
Just different paradigms.
So what's the millennial trait you think millennial parents will be most likely to parent out of their kids?
Interesting question.
Oh man. Well, one thing that we're seeing in Gen Z, which like a few of Gen Z happen to be like children of like the oldest of the millennials, is that they're really pragmatic. Like we're all dreamers, and we like really dream for ourselves, but the next generation, like they're all like pretty realistic about it. So I think that
millennials are parenting out the dream aspect or something.
I would say that we're like dream killers. I wouldn't think that would be it. But I think that that's definitely something to watch, because we were always told that we could do it. And you know, we've had to face like economic recession. We've had to face like really terrible markets, like high competition. We're the most educated, and like we're highly educated and grossly underpaid. Like there was a lot of things that we dreamt about that like didn't come to fruition. So we can't really like teach that to our next generation. We have to say like, you know, here are the facts, here's what you have to do to like make it happen. So I feel like there would be a little bit less of like, you know, pats on the backs and a little bit more of, you know, slaps on the butts.
I also feel like we're gonna try and parent out like constantly looking at screens. You know, like if we have FOMO to JOMO, I think like at some point all of us are gonna realize like, oh my god, I spent all of my 20s text messaging. You know what I mean? Like, which right now I'm kind of fine with, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be 40 and like, you know, be really regretting that.
I don't talk to any of those people anymore.
Well, but I also feel like technology will streamline, apps will streamline, social networks will streamline, so you don't have to be all over the place all the time. Everything will become simpler, so you don't have to always be looking at a screen or a phone. Your TV and your laptop and your phone and your tablet all become one thing. I mean, if you go like 20 years from now, all that can become streamlined so that you can differentiate it from your life and not constantly be hooked in, because we'll start to realize that it's like a severe psychological impairment. You know.
Just, you know, one, and let me take the question, I think one point that gets to employer, gets to core traits of the millennials and how to market is this overused word authenticity. And I think the millennials are very cynical, and appropriately so, and you cross them on that authenticity, like Morgan said, relative to that empty jar that she got, and you will not recover as a marketer. You do the same thing as an employer, and not be transparent, not be relatively open, and not be overly hierarchical, you will have problems. You've got to realize to manage them or to grow them, it's a partnership, it's a flat structure, it's an inclusive environment, and let them grow and let them teach you. And it's the same thing when you're marketing to millennial or any consumer. The authenticity, because of social media, because of the ability to micro-target, it's such a simple concept, but if you do it well, consumers will give you a break, employees will give you a break. They will not fire you as soon as you do something wrong if you're transparent, honest, admit mistakes. I mean, brands, one of the most powerful things they can do is to say, you know what, we screwed up here. Let me do this for you. The most remarkable thing when Domino's Pizza came out with, our pizza sucks. We just realized it. Just realized it. But I don't know what they did, but they basically.
They said, we listened to you, we're gonna change it.
And they did.
And they did.
They backed it up. They didn't just say that, which was
Right,
nice.
but that's the authenticity. But to acknowledge it, and the same thing with an employer. You acknowledge, you know, we don't have it right. You're right. Our vacation policy is wrong. Or this is wrong. It's very simple. You follow those rules, and you find whether you're marketing to an employee or a consumer or to another brand, being authentic goes a long way. It's a real differentiator. It's remarkable how many non-authentic organizations there are.
You had your hand raised for a while.
No, I just wanted to, I was just curious, what has been the most, across all generations, what has been like the most successful in terms of, you know, for your targeting, for advertising, what platform or what device? I heard mobile is like really like the strong point for advertising right now, but do you feel like that's going to be true for a little while, or how do you think where do you think that's going to go? Is it going to evolve or change soon, later?
To be honest, there's no one platform or device that works for all generations. Each has, you know, their own thing that they're most comfortable with. So right now, for millennials, when you think about, so we talked about second screen a little bit. When you think about that, you think of a person sitting there watching TV and being on their phone or their computer, but it's actually way past that. We don't even look at TV anymore. Your first screen is your mobile phone or your laptop, and then your second screen is whatever you're not on. So you're either on your mobile phone, your second screen's your laptop, or you're on your laptop and your second screen's your mobile. Like TV isn't even a part of it anymore, which is, you know, being passed on to the next generation. So more technology that comes out, I think it's going to change, and platforms are going to evolve. But I don't think there's one, you know, all-in solution for all generations.
I also think you have to structure your message, or if you have a message you want to send, there are certain mediums to say certain things. You know what I mean? Like, don't try and shove weird ad units into my phone. I will hate you forever. You know, but if it's a really quick thing and it's going to be kind of charming and funny, and you're going to give me something, like, pop up on my phone. Why not? You know, like, if what you're doing, the idea is to fit the medium. Like, they should match together in a nice way, because that will feel more organic and it won't feel weird, and you'll be more receptive to it.
Sam, one more question. I think we're gonna wrap it up soon.
We're happy to chat with you.
Oh, and everyone, please take a copy of Wake Up. It's our first issue on millennials, and it's right over here.
It's something that our strategy group put together. It's a quarterly intel report. We do it each quarter. Our today, finally. But this one was really fun because it's all about millennials. So if you want to read more about it or get in contact with us, we're in the back, and we'd love to chat with you. Thank you, guys.